He's half dog, half wolf, and 100% ignored by the town until they desperately need a hero.
Not dog, not wolf, you're a hero!
Today, we are braving the Alaskan wilderness and traveling back to 1995 to see if Balto still leads the pack or if it's better left out in the cold.
You'll never get home. I'll make sure of that.
Stick around to see if Seth can freeze me in my tracks with this episode's trivia question.
Back then, he was considered slow and poorly suited for the job. True or false?
And find out how we're going to rate this nostalgic winter adventure. Are you going to take it home? Are you going to watch it at Grandma's? Or are you going to hide it in the attic? Grab a heavy blanket and a mug of hot cocoa. It's time for another movie at Grandma's. Hello, hello. Please come in. There's some fresh cookies in the cookie jar. There's a pitcher of Kool-Aid on the counter. Make yourself comfortable. And welcome to Movies at Grandma's House, where we'd love to look at the movies we grew up with to answer the question, does it still hold up today? And is it family friendly enough that even Grandma can approve and enjoy? I'm your host, Isaac. I was so scared, I got people bumps.
And this is Seth. Since when do you need a pedigree to help someone?
It is great to see you, Seth. I'm really excited for this one. I think this hits a lot of core memories for ones in the 90s. But as a reminder, for ones at home, what is Grandma putting on for us to watch today?
1995's Balto.
That is it. So fair warning, if you have never seen this movie before, we're going to be breaking it down, going into spoiler territory. So going forward, consider yourself warned. Well, again, 1995, can you believe it? 30 years it is celebrating. Over that, I can't believe it, but here we are. Before we jump into it, we break it all down though, let's get a little bit more information about this movie in some film facts. So Balto was released back on December 22nd, 1995. It had a budget of $31 million. The box office, $11 million. Looking around at some reviews, IMDb sits at a 7.1 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes is a 54%. Letterboxd has a 3.6 out of 5. Currently, as of this recording, there is nowhere you can watch it for free, so you're going to have to buy or rent this one. It stars Kevin Bacon, Bridget Fonda, Bob Hoskins, Phil Collins, and many more. It is in association with Amblin Entertainment. And last but not least, we got to know, how does Grandma feel about this one?
Granny's family-friendly rating for Balto is a B for intense scenes and adult themes.
There you go. We love to hear from you as well. So drop your comments, your ratings, memories that you have of Balto below. We'd love to hear them. And be sure you hit that subscribe button too to make sure you're up to date when all things Movies at Grandma's House comes out, all the news and updates. Well, let's get into this one, Seth. Again, 30 plus years ago this came out. I'm really interested. What's your first memories with Balto?
So that's shocking, but I had never seen this one, so it was all new to me.
That's interesting. I mean, we're talking about a movie that was 30 years ago. This is kind of the opposite. This is one I remember watching a lot. Now, I'll admit we didn't own it, but it was because I had friends, I had cousins and relatives that owned it, and it was almost always on around that time, 95, 96, when it was released to home. It would be 96 since this was late 95 when it was released, but that's all I remember is just being over at friend's house and this was on in the background. So I'm very familiar with it, but I will admit that's probably the last time I'd seen this movie. So 30 years ago, yeah, I was really excited to come back to this one for sure for that reason. So kind of give away a little bit of mine, but I want to know, since you've never seen it before, what were your expectations going into it?
I simply hoped that it would be a good time, that I'd enjoy myself, and that it would be strong animation.
Right. This is early on when animation was growing a little bit more. I mean, animation's been around for years. That's kind of a dumb statement, I know, but like the 90s kind of cemented your Disney renaissance, and this was competing with that. But I remember at the time I was still impressed with it. So my expectation was kind of similar to yours. Like, I hope it holds up. It has good animation like I remember, because that was one thing I thought about at the time. This animation is really good. It's not Disney, but it's still really well done. And I like the characters. I remember some funny moments. So I was like, I hope I can laugh again. I hope it still holds up in that way. And the usual, hope my kids can enjoy it. They're laughing along with me. Well, before we get to the plot rewind, let's pause just a moment to hear from our sponsors. Hey, love movies as much as we do? Then bring the experience of the theater to your walls with movieposters.com. Whether you're into the classics, the blockbusters, or indie gems, they have something for every single film fanatic. as a listener of our podcast, you can save up to 15% on your order right now. Just use code Grandma's House at checkout. Head to movieposters.com and let's build your ultimate collection today. All right, let's take the VHS out of the cover. Let's put it in the VCR and press play.
Based on a true story, Balto is about a half-wolf husky dog who desperately wants to be noticed. Balto takes on the challenge of delivering a life-saving medicine to Nome, Alaska. Will he be able to lead the pack and get the medicine there in time? Find out in this epic adventure.
There you go. Yes, this is an interesting animated film in that it's based on a true story. We're going to get into the specifics. Not all of the things that take place in this film really took place in real life, but it gives you that story that it's based upon. And it's a really neat concept. That's what really jumps out to me. It's not your standard animated, just wacky silliness. It's got that for the kids, the comedy, but it's got some serious tones to it and what's going on, what the stakes are. It's pretty intense, actually, when you look at it just on the surface. But I got to know, this is your first time going into it. So what's kind of your first impressions as you're watching the film?
So for some strange reason, the depiction from live action to animation really bothered me. I think that's my major gripe with this movie. I enjoyed the animation just like all the way through, just fine during the film, but and I also enjoyed the storytelling. But what really got me was the live action at the beginning and at the end of the movie. Like the transition was just a hard watch for me. I don't know if it's because it's dated animation or what, but I had a hard time with it myself.
That's interesting. I made a note of that, of like, it does seem off. So I agree with you on that. I don't know if it bothered me as much as it did you, but I do feel like it was maybe for its time okay, but maybe that hasn't aged well. That's something.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
Right. Coming in, since you've never seen it before, I think that holds up too. For me, I've seen it before, but that is kind of funny. You mentioned that it's a core memory. There's been several times I go back to, I'd be at a friend's house and it'd be on and the live action would be on. And you're a kid, you're playing, maybe you're not paying full attention. But I come back and I'm like, did you guys put on another movie? And they're like, no, it's the same movie. So I agree. It is kind of a different way to do it. I do like what they were trying to go, the approach of it all, of it's based on a true story. Balto's got that statue in Central Park. So it's kind of highlighting like, yes, this really is based on a true story. We'll get into it more, though. Obviously, not everything that happened in this film could possibly happen in real life. Let's just be honest. I'm talking geese and animals and those types of things. But I agree that there's some rough edges on this one. And that is one that I think they could have done a better job. If it was done today, I bet you it would have been handled a little differently. But yeah, what did you think of the story overall? I think that's kind of the big highlight of this with what's at stake, especially.
This was a very heavy plot, especially for kids, a kids movie. The story was told extremely well, though, and I thought that the plot was quite refreshing because it was so different, as you were mentioning.
Right. This is, again, going to be loosely based on a true story, and from what I was reading, Balto wasn't the only dog that helped deliver this medicine. I mean, spoilers galore, it works out. They save the town, but that's what it's building. It's building that intensity of, are they going to make it? Are they going to get there in time? Because this town has this illness. They're out of the medicine. The only way to get there, because of the times it was set, I think in the 20s, it's by bobsled, by, dog sled. So it's raising the stakes a little more. You think today, we have technology and other things that could improve, but there's something about that timepiece. There's only this amount of resources available. They're only available to travel in certain ways. So I like that part of the story. It really puts you in there and you feel that urgent need, that, a plot point, I guess I'm trying to get at. And it is deep. Like, I was actually like hit pretty emotionally. I don't remember that when I was a kid because you're just not paying attention to it. But specifically what's coming to my mind is they're thinking the medicine's not going to come in time. And the one guy is starting to build these caskets for children. And it was like, what'd you think of that? Like, I got to know, because it hit me emotionally. Like, I was feeling it.
I can see how that would be rough. For me, it was when they showed the girl and she was like about to die. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
That was really rough for me.
And that hit me too. Absolutely. That really hit me. The subtle casket being made was more subtle, but is this little girl going to die? Like, wow, it goes there. It leaves it on a cliffhanger a little bit there towards the end. But again, we can all breathe a sigh of relief. It's based on a true story. It worked out in the end. And that's what really builds the characters too, because the main character is Balto. He's this half dog, half wolf. He's always looked down upon in this town, but ends up being the hero. He ends up being the one that goes and rescues this dog sled that gets lost, and it works out in the end. So what'd you think of the characters overall? I mean, there's some pretty big stars actually in this one too that do the voice acting.
I'll highlight it, but I'd like you to bring it out because I know you're more familiar with this one than I am. So the voice acting I thought was really special and wonderful. The voices pushing along the great storyline. I thought that Steele was very mean-spirited and cruel and at times very obnoxious.
Oh,
but
yes.
it was a good villain, I would say. Maybe up in the top of the villains we've watched before, covered. But what did you think of the characters?
That's a great point. Like, out of the villains we've covered, he's just a slime ball. Like, he is, absolutely just scum. Like, you just hate that character of Steele. He's so boastful.
Right from the beginning.
Yeah. Takes out a dog sled team, just starts biting their leash and messes them all up. And I'll say Jim Cummings, he is just an awesome villain. Like, look at everything 90s. That is what he's done with good characters. He's Winnie the Pooh, Tigger. So I love Jim Cummings. He's just a legendary voice actor. If you think of voice acting, he's probably one name that comes to mind as probably a top 10, if not top 5, one of the best. And he just has that gravelly voice, when he talks. And he nails it for Steele. It's like, I can't imagine another voice for such a sinister, and he's just all about himself. He steals those sausages and is like, hey, look what I got, and then blames it on Balto when the humans come and are trying to catch him. That kind of slime. I mean, yeah, it's like a villain you love to hate. That is I love that comment, though. That might be one of the best villains we've considered, at least.
I'd say it's up there for sure.
Right. So, I think it's great. You start with Jim Cummings. He's great. Kevin Bacon, come on, he's got an awesome name, like Bacon as a last name. And so many roles, right? Like, he plays it well. And I feel like it doesn't quite sound like him. It's Kevin Bacon, but that's where, again, I give a lot of respect of voice acting, that they're not just given their voices, they become the character a little bit. So I give my hats off to Kevin Bacon. He does a really good job. Bob Hoskins, I think he is kind of the scene stealer, though. I will give it to him. Mm-hmm. He is Boris. What did you think of Boris as the geese? He's kind of the comic relief.
Very funny. I thought that they wrote him they didn't write him in like too much. Like there wasn't like too much comic relief in this one. It was just the right amount, and it was voiced very well, and the animation was good too. And I really appreciated. One of the scenes I liked was when they were both laying next to each other, and it was really cute. I thought that the character was really, really great.
Yeah. Bob Hoskins, he's another legendary actor. He's done a lot of live action, but I don't know if he gets enough credit. He just has a certain voice, it. And he does a good job of tweaking it a little bit, but it's him as well. So I can't rave enough. This is, one of the ones I would look back on in the 90s, one of the better, maybe underrated voice acting that's going on. And I mean, even Phil Collins, this is, a guy that's more known for his musical roles. He fits well as the polar bear twins. They're kind of that other comic relief as well. They just kind of are clumsy and more of your slapstick, but they annoy Boris, the goose, that's kind of Balto's friend. I love those scenes. It's great when you see that chemistry kind of bouncing off of each other. But yeah, I love the animation that you kind of touched on. That goes along with the comedy a little bit, the way their mannerisms are portrayed. I think it's sad that I don't hear much about the animation on this. I think it holds up really, really well. It's one of those that not all movies can do that. There's some that are really stale and wooden. It didn't feel like that to me. What did you think of the animation?
I think so. With my gripe about this film, I think the animation was so good, it made the actual live action look bad. If that makes sense, I hope it makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. I can't get over how much it was jarring to me to see that. I loved the animation. I thought it really pushed the story along. And then there was some intensity that really played off well with the animation. And I thought it was well done.
Yes, I agree with you. That probably is what it is. The animation just is so well done. It fits the mood. Like you said, it's not full silly. It's got its serious moments. This is a nice balance of comedy for the kids, but it's also got a strong, more mature, I would say, story going on with it, that it somehow is able to blend both so well. And normally you have these snow setting movies. It's pretty plain. I felt like it was colorful. It had its moments, especially where I forget her name, but she's the kind of love interest of Balto.
I can't think of it either.
Yeah, isn't that terrible? We do that all the time. We need to take better notes of the character names. But Steele obviously is trying to get her affections, but it's really her and Balto. She uses the glass that Balto had shown. I was underneath the doctor's office or whatever. That's all colorful. There's a scene later on where Balto falls and has the medicine, and there's this white wolf that appears. I'm like, I don't care if it's kind of, I wouldn't say cheesy, but kind of cliche. I was like, that's an awesome scene. I love that. What do you think of that scene where he sees the snow wolf and it's that motivation to get him to keep going?
I have a fun fact about that, and I really didn't. I mean, it's not really anything I didn't enjoy other than the bookends of this film. Like, I really was immersed in it. I kind of was anchored into what was going to happen since I had never seen before. I was really curious about what they were going to do because it was quite like alarming several times in the movie.
Yeah,
but I love the scene. Yes, I do.
Yeah, it's again, that's why I feel it's a really good story. It's something the kids can enjoy. We'll get to my kids' thoughts later a little bit, but they seem to be entertained, not just from the silly, the humor, but even the story elements, the deeper ones that we've touched on. They were entertained by it as well. But that's something that it takes a lot of finesse, I guess, of what I'm trying to say. It takes a good balance, and I think they did a really good job on that. I can't praise it enough on the story, the way it's developed. There's a few gripes I have. I kind of agree with you. The live action might be a down if you want to say a con to this movie. They could have done that a little better. There are moments where it's like, could that really happen? I mean, I go back to Balto falling off of this cliff and he just gets up and does it by himself pulling this medicine. I'm like, could he really do that? You know, there's little things like that. It's just, I wish it would have been a little better, but it's small gripes in my book. I don't think it's it ruined it for me or anything. I just kind of maybe raised an eyebrow at times that maybe they could have ironed those out a little bit more. But overall, you're going to have a good time, I think. Okay. Well, anything else that you want to touch on, scenes or quotes, things like that?
There's a scene that I really enjoyed where when they entered the cave, when he was on the way back towards the Nome, and Balto does everything he can to get the medicine through there in time, really cementing his character, I thought. You see his desire and his determination to like get this done. And it's like, just, it's so captivating. I don't know what else to say. I really don't. It really took me by surprise, like how intense this movie could get.
Yes. I really love his character, how it develops. That's a great way to put it. It's kind of like it cements it, but you see what's special about Balto because he's looked down upon being this half wolf, half dog. And there's these dog sled teams that compete and do all these things. And he's left out. Again, going back to Steele kind of sabotages him like he's this wild, savage wolf. Even though they need all the help they can get for the medicine, he's left out. He ends up going and finding them. They get stranded because of Steele. And he like scratches the trees as a way to find his way back and channels that inner wolf as a way to get back. But it's also just his determination, his grit, like you're talking about, that makes you enjoy that character. I agree 100%. We're all about character arcs, right? We love that. Like he's still growing. He's still the same character for the most part, but it's his like believing in himself more because he's believing the doubt that people are putting in his mind of you're just this half dog, half wolf, but he rises to the occasion. It's a literal underdog story. I mean, it's what you want in a film, that feel good character arc going through. All right. So you touched on it a little bit, but I'm interested to hear if you've got your fun facts. Let's have it.
I do. And before I get into what I've written down, I'll just mention a couple that you brought up. So they did take a few liberties. From what I've read, he wasn't half wolf. He was full husky.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that might ruin it for some people. And then the other one that I wasn't going to bring out, but you talked on it, it was that there was another dog. I think it's like Tego or Togo or something.
Yeah,
that did the majority of the leading for the delivery, and Balto finished the course. So Balto got all the praise, and that's why they made the story after him. But the other dog did the majority of the run, leading the pack, which was quite a feat. And I'll get into that later. But yeah, so my first fun fact that I've got written down here is something I talked about on Uncle Seth's Corner, if anybody watched that. So this movie was greatly overshadowed by Toy Story at the time. And however, it went on to get a cult following, like you mentioned. Like a lot of people later on got into this story. But at the time, it was greatly overshadowed by Toy Story and the success of Pixar And it's amazing to me how they came out at the same time and they look completely different.
Yeah. I would say, unfortunately, you have, I'll praise Toy Story all day. I think it's one of my favorite movies, but I do feel bad because a lot of that is the CGI. When that came out, Toy Story got a lot more praise for the CGI. And we look at it now and we're like, oh, it's kind of dated today, but there was nothing like that. So unfortunately, that is bad timing for Balto because I think the animation is great. It's just traditional. People were kind of like, let's move on to the CGI, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think, not to make this about Toy Story, but I think the three things that make Toy Story so big is the CGI, the storytelling, like the dialogue, and then what was I going to say?
The cast was big, I would say. I would throw that in there. You got Tom Hanks.
Well, yeah, that's another thing. But I had one thing in mind, and now I lost it. So the CGI, the storytelling, and then I'm coming up with a blank. I'll have to think about that later. But yeah, there was like three major things I think that made Toy Story what it was at the time. The other thing is the premise that toys come to life,
right? And
that had nothing we'd ever seen before, and so that was a big deal. And it wasn't just like that storyline or premise, but it was that CGI that people drew them in. And it was hard to beat, that's for sure. And it still is today. It's like you mentioned, and we've mentioned several times, it's one of our favorites. So
yeah, can't fault people for wanting to go after Toy Story at the time. But if this is one you missed, I think you might be pleasantly surprised with the animation. Even like we've talked about, it's really well done.
It's a shame that that Balto came out around the same time because it's such a good story, and I'm glad that there's a following now. But back then, that's kind of sad that it got overshadowed. Yeah. But it is what it is. Movies come out at the end of the year usually to try to get Oscar buzz or nominations or something. Usually why. So interesting.
Yeah, just a shame because, like mentioned, it was a $31 million budget. Box office was only 11 compared to you're talking monster numbers for Toy Story. So it was it was kind of a box office failure, unfortunately. But there's thankfully home videos, so that might be something to look up. Maybe it made back its money in home video rentals, buying, and all that stuff.
Wow. Yeah. So the next fun fact, I got taken aback by that Toy Story line. So so this journey they took to deliver the serum is now known as the Iditarod race, which is wildly famous today. We've covered that. I think there was Snow Dogs. Did they have the Iditarod?
Yeah.
So that is based on the run that they took for this. What the true event that happened is that race today is based on that. So that's pretty awesome. That's pretty cool. It stands up over 100 years, I guess.
Yeah, we've kind of unintentionally, if you're following our season, we've got a dog theme going on. So this is a great connection right there. If you've been paying attention, that that inspired it. Wow, that's really cool. I really like that one.
All right, and my next one is, as you mentioned, the Arctic wolf scene. So they used real wolf howls during that Arctic wolf scene. That wasn't fake. That was real. So that's pretty cool as they added that touch.
Yes. It added to me. I think you got to get, when it's a scene like that, you got to make sure everything is clicking. You can't just halfway go there. Like, we'll do real good on the animation, but the sound effects or music, all of those things have to really gel together. And that scene did it for me. Maybe for the average person, it was okay. But for me, I was like, almost wanting to stand up like, that was that moment in the movie where you really wanted to cheer on the character.
All right. So it's time for a fun fact trivia question. Are you ready?
I am ready. I hope I don't get left out in the cold this time, but I am ready.
So it's a little wordy. So I can go over it twice if you need me to, but true or false, and this is a little bit long, but in his first 2 years of existence, the real Balto was a dog working for miners. He carried the food back and forth. True or false? Back then, he was considered slow and poorly suited for the job. True or false?
I think it has to have some kind of underdog about it because, like you mentioned, he finished the race. So obviously he's going to get getting the medicine, that run. So that makes sense. He'd get the praise, but there's got to be something there. So maybe it's one you trip me up on, but I'm going to lean towards true.
So it's true.
All right.
And how much he must have changed because to become that dog that can lead the pack from a dog that was considered slow and poorly suited for that job. So that's interesting that he had a similar job when he was young, than to what he did and got famous for. So that's pretty cool. I thought that was a neat little fact.
That is pretty cool. And it does the opposite in the movie. He's actually the fastest because they are considering him for the medicine run. It isn't until Steele sabotages him, makes him look like he's, dangerous. But that's funny. That is interesting. That's where, again, I go back to this movie. It's based on a true story. It's not something that's you're going to take it scene for scene. Obviously, there's the animation element of animals talking and all that stuff. But even that part of it, I was wondering about, like, was he really the fastest? Was he really like...
Well, he became quite strong, but when his first 2 years of existence, apparently he wasn't as nearly as strong as he became. So that's kind of cool. I like that. That's kind of
I like that too.
Kind of a neat little thing I've picked up when researching this one.
All right. Well, just like Balto, maybe I was the underdog, but not anymore. I came through on that. So I'm feeling great. So great question, though. That's a good one. I like that one a lot. That's really awesome. Just any way they can incorporate, the underdog, I'm going to eat that up every time. So, all right. Well, before we get to our rating, we like to look around the net. We'd just like to see what kind of reviews are out there. This was released again 30 years ago. So I'm sure there's a lot of interesting ones out there. But Seth, what are you seeing?
So our first user review is Slay Guy 86 says, a wonderful movie released at the wrong time, 9 out of 10.
I can't word that any better. That's a really good way to put it. It just wasn't released at the right time. I think you'd hear a lot more about this movie. This is a more under the radar kind of a film.
So our next one was from Joey_Corner, said, an underrated gem, 10 out of 10.
Wow, really liked it. I agree. It's an underrated gem for sure. It's something you can enjoy, even with its flaws, like we touched about. It's got a lot you can enjoy for sure.
And the last one I've got is Thousand Island says, a dramatic and well-made film, 8 out of 10.
Okay, a lot of positives there. I think this is also one I go back to. A lot of kids that I knew own this. So I'm wondering if there's a lot of nostalgia with this one for a lot of ones that have grown up too.
So I want to say real quick, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
That before we go past this, that when I was researching these user reviews, there was tons of 10 out of 10 reviews. And there was a few really low rated reviews, and therefore it got like a 7.1 or something like that. Yeah. Which was weird because there was more 10s than I've ever seen on any movie, I think, that I've ever researched.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can kind of see it, though. Again, it's well done. It's just the actual animation, the atmosphere we talked about. I mean, it's all just a nice packaged kind of a movie, even if it is loosely based on the true story. They stretch it a little bit in that Hollywood way, but it's enjoyable. It's got a great, just feel-good story to it overall, everything about it. So I'm not surprised, but it is kind of shocking. Like, out of all the movies you're talking about, that's the one you've seen the most 10 out of 10. So that's really cool.
I don't know, man.
Well, there we got a little bit of the reviews online, but we also like to put movies through the kid test. So I have 5 kids. One is a newborn, so does not count currently. Can't really understand the movies as we're watching them. But for my others, they are 10 and under. So like to see what their thoughts are. And I'll admit, all of them did not want to watch this movie. They were pushing back. Like, I don't want to watch this movie. It just didn't appeal to them. Maybe that's also part of when it was released. It just didn't appeal to kids. Toy Story obviously is also more appealing, but I don't know. The what ifs, right? We can go back to. But for them, it didn't catch their attention. It wasn't until I said, let's just give it a try. And sure enough, my oldest said he liked it. When the credits rolled, he's like, I enjoyed it. And I caught him laughing at one point. There was a scene with the goose and the polar bears, and the goose says, I hate bears. And he belly laughed. He's like, I really like that line. So 10 years old, he had a great time with it. My next is 8 years old. He enjoyed it, and he was actually asking questions like, did this really happen in real life, or did that really happen? And I was like, well, the medicine and those types of things. But I had to explain to him, obviously, this didn't really happen. And going back to your live action, at the end, it turns out that grandmother was the girl that got saved. So that, is a fictional character. But yes, there were people that were sick and were saved. I had to explain those types of things. But he found it really enjoyable too. I mean, he said, I enjoyed that one. And then my next is, he's 6 years old. He really liked it. He likes dogs. He likes those kind of animals. So that really appealed to him. And my 3-year-old, he's kind of he gets distracted. So he was along the same line. He really enjoyed that dog theme and everything going on. So overall, I mean, it's passes the kid test for sure, I would say.
Wow.
So, all right. Well, let's get down to it, Seth. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts, your final rating, but I have to ask you the question for Balto. How are you going to rate it? Are you going to take it home? Are you going to watch it at grandma's? Or are you going to hide it in the attic?
So I had a hard time with the live action bookends. That was my thing. But that being said, I absolutely love the animation and the story. I'll take this home.
Wow. Awesome. So even with the flaws of the live action, you take it home.
It's a good story.
It is. It is really good. I think this deserves to take it home. I can't praise enough how good the animation is, the voice acting. It's funny. But I'll actually surprise you. I'm actually going to watch this at grandma's. It's a high end. I was back and forth because I was like, I want to take this home. I think this is perfect. It's one of those movies we've talked about where if you give some time and come back to it, you're going to have a really good time. It's maybe one I don't want to watch like all the time, but you could. I would not be surprised. Like if it was on, I would stop what I'm doing and watch it because like you said, it's just so well done. I just shake my head of how it got missed and it makes sense. But still, it's just like, what a shame. Like, this should be getting a lot more praise. Thankfully, it is kind of getting that praise today. More people are finding this one. But if you haven't, I can't stress enough. Check this one out. This is one you're going to have a good time with. I just feel like it's good to come back to, maybe give it a little time and come back and be in the right mood for it. It does have those deep, heavy themes.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing, but maybe just something you're not going to watch all the time, if that makes sense. Well, there you go, folks. This was a lot of fun to go back to. Had so much fun watching this with my kids, watching them enjoy a movie that, like I said, they didn't want to watch at first and ended up enjoying. You just never know. Kind of proves the point. You got to give stuff a try before you knock it. So, well, before we wrap things up, Seth, why don't you tell the good people where they can find and connect with us?
You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook at Movies at Grandma's House, and on TikTok at LADX Media. You can email us at moviesatgrandmashouse@gmail.com. We have a great newsletter and a revamped Patreon, so subscribe and become a member. We're brought to you by movieposters.com, so please use code Grandma's House at checkout. That's one word, Grandma's House, for up to 15% off.
That's it. Yes. Be sure to check us out. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your memories. That's what it's all about. Just sharing memories that we have of movies we watched growing up and your thoughts, your ratings, because we also want to hear what you guys think. If there's any recommendations of movies we should cover, we do lives from time to time. We got some great feedback of some stinker movies maybe to consider coming up. So if you even want to recommend movies that'll put us through the ringer and torture us a little bit, that's fine. You know, as long as it matches the criteria, family friendly, something you'd watch at grandma's. We'd love to hear from you. So please drop us a line. You can also follow us with the newsletter, like Seth mentioned, Patreon. That's a great way to support the podcast. So don't miss out. Well, that's going to do it for our time at Grandma's house, but don't worry, we will be back soon. So in the meantime, remember to be kind and rewind. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye, everybody.